So traditions started me out with training, but there was a lot more to come. Chapter 3 of my story working for Walt Disney World. I mentioned in the last chapter, are starting out with training and the tour. Everybody starts off with traditions, and this is a whole day where you sit down and you get traditions and you get all your paperwork. Oh, and then you get another big notebook full of paperwork, and they go over everything from your benefits, your taxes, uh, code of conduct, essentially sexual harassment, perks, and all sorts of stuff. It's a whole day that you spend in training, and then at the end of it, you get handed off to your department. From there, with Photopass at the time, it really just began the training. This was an intro to the park. So after that, we're handed our first schedule, and I actually still have my very first schedule here. Yeah, I know I keep all sorts of stuff, but my very first day officially with Photopass was about a week after traditions. And the first part of the on-job training was that park tour I talked about. There's guidelines in here. In fact, it's funny because you look at this and here is my invitation to the park tour. And it includes the dress code, the times, everything that we need to know for it. And at the end of it, that's when we're handed off to Photopass to begin the rest of the training. So you notice there's 2 weeks on here, and all those gray boxes, that's all training. At the time, when you start off there, they hand you another folder. And in it, it has your schedule, contact information, attendance policy, and various things like that. And it includes some of your training materials. Now, I did keep a lot of mine. One of the things that was interesting with Photopass, because it was new, it was about a year old. We were replacing Kodak. In fact, that's a whole nother story that I actually have in another video that I'm very proud of. Please go watch that video. It's one of my favorite videos, and for some reason people didn't watch it. Go watch the history of how Photopass kicked Kodak out of the parks. But we're coming in. I don't think most of us realized how new what we were doing was, how cutting edge, and how much we were out there doing something incredible. We had a mix of experienced photographers. One of the guys I trained with and I'm still friends with today was actually a crime scene investigator photographer. This guy knew his stuff. We had portrait photographers with us. And then you had people like me who didn't know much of anything. And the training was designed to teach us first how to be photographers, then how to use, and part of that was how to use the camera, another camera, then the kind of pictures that Disney wanted, and then be able to go into the parks and actually take those pictures. We have 5 days of training. Now I hear they've got it down to 1, maybe 2. And this wasn't even all of our training. So we had the park tour and costuming. Then day 2, we got introduction to guest service and how to use the camera. Day 3 was more camera care. Again, more training on how to use the camera. They're assuming that most of us didn't know anything. And so we get this big old packet, and it literally tells you everything about how to use a camera. What's an f-stop? What's an aperture? What is shutter speed? What is rule of thirds? What's your exposure compensation? ISO, and all of this stuff, a lot of which we're not going to use, but they wanted us to be trained photographers. So if something happened, we knew how to adjust for it. They didn't just want people out there knowing nothing and taking pictures. We want you to know how to actually take the picture. So in different places, it meant different things. We learned that kind of the mantra of when you're shooting icons being the castle, Spaceship Earth, Tree of Life, or if you're at Disney MGM Studios, the hat. Yeah, it's not there anymore. But kind of the mantra for all of those is step back and zoom in. See, a lot of people, when they take a picture, when they're visiting someplace, they go running up to the place and take the picture from way back so they can get the whole thing while the family's standing way up there and they end up about this big and you can't see them. Well, Disney, we get the people a lot closer to the photographer and whatever you're taking the picture of further away. And then you step back a little bit from the people, zoom in, and you bring that icon up close. This is how Disney gets these great looking photos with the family looking right there and whatever it is they're taking the picture of, Tree of Life or the castle. And it looks huge in the picture. At least it should if you do it right. That's one of the things we learned, how to do that. Or partners. It's amazing how many people screw up the partners picture, including Photopass photographers. If you're not familiar, the partner statue is right down the center of the castle hub. You've got Walt holding Mickey's hand. It's this beautiful bronze statue sitting in this little center garden, and people will gather in front of it and take pictures. Well, what a lot of people do is they put the castle and then the statue and then the family. And it's kind of this tier stairway effect. And it's okay. Not great. Well, we learned how to take this picture that just looks awesome of the same thing. That instead of doing this, what you do is you put the family and the statue and the castle. And so you shoot it off center a little bit so that way you can get this beautiful trios thing. This is the rule of thirds in action. And you get all three things being highlighted and it looks fantastic. So here's how you shoot it. So that was the kind of stuff that we spent time learning. That was day 4, how to line up your shots. What do we want to see? How are you going to get that? And then day 5 is actually out in the parks doing it. You start off half the day with a group of other trainees, and then you're out on Main Street for a bit with your other trainees shooting some guests, but your trainer's right there supervising. We had several great trainers. Probably one of my favorites, everybody's favorite, was Mike, who was actually one of the guys who helped establish Photopass over at Epcot. And Mike got us all going up to speed. And so by the end of that day, we had enough on-job training. You're like, okay, you're ready to go. That day was Saturday. Monday, you come in and, hey, you're on your own. There's your spot on Main Street. Good luck. I'll tell you, it was a little nerve-wracking. It was a little scary to be out there and kind of going, oh my, I'm doing this by myself. One of the things you learn early on is to milk this. So every new cast member gets their earning their ears ribbon, and you hang it on your name tag there. You milk this puppy. You keep it on as long as you can. The people that took it off right away regretted it because then they're saying that they knew answers and everything else. And at that point, once you take the ribbon off and a guest asks a question, you're not allowed to say, really, I'm not sure. Let me figure this out. You basically have to be able to answer a question, whether it's off an information sheet or, hey, let me go find the answer for you. You weren't allowed to make mistakes. But as long as you had your earning your ears ribbon, you could pretend like you so weren't sure what you were doing. And so I milked it till finally one day one of my trainers came up a few months in, looked at my ribbon, looked at me and says, really? And ripped it off. Okay. Now, this is all in June of 2006, so 19 years ago. And yeah, I was a little younger then. I was in my mid-30s. Oh, gosh. Wow. Okay. I just made myself feel old. But we get all of our training. We start shooting it on the street. We work through our nerves. We get our first shots in of guests. And it's going well. And then 3 days into it, after shooting the castle during the day, being there in the morning, then they throw another day of training at you. Today, you're going to learn how to take night shots, because night shots is a whole different deal. Now, at the time, cameras were not able to compensate as well for low light. Our phones now, they just light up and you don't know what the phone's even doing. You just know it looks great at night. But back then, you had to take a longer shot. You had to put a camera on the tripod because it took a 4-second photo, which meant your people had to stand there still for 4 seconds. Yeah, that long. Without moving, or they turned into a blur because it opens the shutter up, holds it open so we can get enough light in to make the picture light up and look good, and you can actually see everybody. It pops a flash at the very beginning of the photo to light up the family, but then leaves the shutter open so you can get the castle and the ambient light and stuff. Got to use a tripod unless you got real steady hands. And yeah, back at that time, my hands were pretty steady, but I still used a tripod. You didn't have an option to hand hold it. Cameras today are awesome enough that you can hand hold night shots and the camera does it for you. It's crazy how much we've advanced. But night shots was another whole day of training and learning once again how to take the picture the proper way at night, to line everything up, to get that tripod in place. And once it's in place, your camera's locked in position, you don't move it. Oh, one of the other things that we covered was the types of photos. So when you shoot a picture of a guest, you have what's called a batch. And you had certain pictures that they were looking for. You had the vertical picture of the icon. That's where you get the whole icon in, the top of it. So the castle was the very tip, and then all the way down, and then with the family standing in front of it. Then you would do what was called a horizontal or a close-up. That one, instead of having the camera this way, you turned it laying down, and you would zoom in on the family. So you could see the icon in the background, but it would actually blur it out just a little bit and focus on the family. And then for a third or fourth shot, we did what we called candids. Usually these were posed. They weren't really candids. But we all kind of had our set stock routine of different poses that we liked. And we were constantly looking to see what other people did and borrowing and bumming and stealing and loving what other stuff did. It was fun to go back and review because we would have time in what we called the view. And that's another day of training coming up. And see what other people were shooting. Some of my favorites, if I had a couple there on their anniversary and they had kids, I love to get the kids kind of covering their eyes with mom and dad kissing behind them, or the kids making gross looking faces, or perhaps getting the kid if they only have one child, put the kid in the middle and have mom and dad giving them both of them giving the kid a kiss and watching the great expressions on the face. That was fun setting up where you get them lined up and you'd use hand gestures to get the parents to go, oh, okay, and get the kid without the kid knowing what was coming. That's when we did the Tinkerbell shot, the magic shots, various things like that. It was fun. We would see such creativity. You started off with the basic ta-da or, back to back, arms crossed. Those were kind of the ones everybody did, or the high school prom picture. If you just had a couple where she's standing in front of him and he's got his arms around her, various things like that. But then the creativity really came out. When the parades were getting ready, one of the photographers, a girl named Jen, grabbed a hula hoop with this little girl and laid down on the ground. Yeah, we wouldn't hesitate to lay down on the ground if it would get us a better shot. Had this girl holding the hula hoop on the side and put the castle in the hula hoop. So you got the little girl holding the castle in just neat stuff like that. We learned how to do the jump shot, trying to get everybody jump at the same time so you get them in the air in front of the castle. So we did that for a few days, and then you get night shot training where they don't get to do as much creativity because they got to hold still the whole time. And then about a week and a half after that, I believe it was, then we had a whole day back at Disney University again. So yeah, the way the training worked, the first day with the park tour was in the park. And then the next 2 days were at Disney University in a classroom. And then the day after that was some on the job. So we started at Disney University, then went into the parks. And then the last day was in the parks and in our base and getting to know everybody before we got turned loose in the parks. So the view, which is where we sold the pictures, we had time again back in a classroom. I believe that was actually a conference room over Main Street. And then learning how to adjust the printers, fix the printers, and redo the ink in them, how to use the software. And then we went down and we played with it and learned how to do it and how to adjust the pictures with the limited ability that it had at the time. And yeah, another whole day of training. Again, they don't get that much anymore. Now, you notice I didn't mention characters in any of that. We weren't shooting characters yet. Now, we did learn to shoot real candids, but no characters. This is coming later. Now, one of the big things that we were told at the beginning was watch the crowd. Watch for things around you that will be great pictures because we don't want to miss it. So proposals were a big thing. If it looks like a proposal's about to happen, scan the customer's card, hand it to them, and get over there. Make sure that you're catching these great moments before parades. A lot of times people stand around and wait for the family to come to them. We'd work the crowd. You get that kid stuffing ice cream in their face or eating popcorn or holding the balloon or various things like that, playing on the street. And we would take all these candid shots and hand them off. Lots of fun, lots of creativity. But Photopass was very different than some things in the past. And that'll be the upcoming chapter. Photopass changed the way pictures are done in parks. And it was so cool to be part of it. Hold on for that next episode. Hope you enjoyed this so far. Let me know what you think. I'd love to hear your comments and feedback. Thank you so much to my supporters, too, for making stuff like this possible. Thank you so much for watching. God bless. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts, your comments, your suggestions, your ideas. Be sure to share them in the comments below, or you can contact me. There's information in the description that has my email address, fan pages, information about merchandise, and so much more. So be sure to check that out. Don't forget to hit that like button, share the video, and if you haven't already, hit the button right up there to subscribe. And in fact, if you did enjoy this, I've even got another video for you right here. And also about these wonderful people here, those are my YouTube members and my patrons, the ones whose financial support makes this possible. I couldn't do it without them. If you want to know more about that and the perks that come with it, well, be sure to check the description. There's a link right down there. Thank you so incredibly much. God bless.